Everybody, thank you very much for coming back tonight to the Pigsty. Tonight we have been joined by Parallax Nick. I'm not sure if everybody knows the channel or who doesn't know. The link is in the description. But for those who don't know, Nick, if you want to give them a wee synopsis of who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm a ordinary fellow who lives in London and has become fascinated with the history of how we learnt what we are and where we are and why we are. And because I happen to know most about astronomy and planetology, I've tended to focus on that. But fundamentally, I really want to give people an idea of how we learned what we learned, because I often feel that science is spoon-fed to people and they're told that this is the way it is. Of course, it's not the way it is. It's never the way it is, because we always learn something else. And it's always, it's an ongoing process. And that's what I'm hoping I can get across.
Well, as I was saying to you before we come in, you know, your videos generally would be on the slightly longer end for what YouTube would like. But what I enjoy about them is the amount of detail that you put into them, you know, and it can get a little bit sciencey at times, but when it's necessary, but when it's not, you go into detail. And like, there's some things that you've brought up, and this guy said this that morning when he did this because you've read the fella's diary or something, you know, on top of actually putting the information and the study into finding out what he found out.
Ideally, that's what I would prefer. Unfortunately, I am currently denied access to the British Library, which is my number one weapon, and because I really do prefer talking about people
Yeah.
and learning about, because scientists in particular are amazing, weird people, and you don't go down that route in life unless you are in some way an unusual person, and
Yeah, we're
and
all weird here. It's fine. We're all a bunch of weirdos here. You're at the right company. It's fine.
yeah, sorry, it's real fun to talk about scientists when I have the necessary information. Unfortunately, the last couple of videos I've done have been very science heavy, because I've been relying mainly on internet information. If I had more books I could use and more biographies I could be reading, I'd be very much. It would be a bit more lighthearted, I think, would be the word. But
Well,
you know,
one of the first
sorry.
questions I usually ask people who's come on is what got you started? You know, what was it that took the need for, you know, to take this information that you have and just go, I'm going to throw it out on the internet for people?
Well, how far back do you want to go? I go back to when I was 5. But the real thing, the real start of this was actually getting involved with Wikipedia. That was the first thing that, because Wikipedia, I started getting involved, I think, in 2007. And 2007 was, I mean, Wikipedia was not anything like what it is now. It
Yeah.
was like the Wild West. You could just wander in off the street and walk your way into the bar and say, okay, I'm going to rewrite this article from the ground up, and no one's going to care because no one was editing Wikipedia at the time. And I decided that I didn't like Wikipedia's definition of the word planet,
Hmm.
because I happen to know that at the time there was no definition of planet that was accepted. Excuse me. So I started writing about the ambiguities involved in the definition of planet, and that eventually became its own article,
Hmm.
which is called Definition of Planet, now a featured article. And it just went on from there. I started creating article after article after article after article about the solar system, about planets, about astronomy, and then I started seeing words that I'd written in newspapers. Just journalists would just copy and paste what I'd written on Wikipedia and just put it in their newspaper article. They didn't bother to come up with original words themselves. And
Yes.
at that point, I was like, I'm over this. It's one thing to be it's one thing to be helping the world. I mean, it was kind of cool to see, articles that I've written being used as
Yeah.
standard texts in 101 classes. But I was sitting there thinking, if I'm going to give people this information, if I'm going to be giving people this knowledge, I want to get some credit for it. I don't necessarily want to get some money for it. I just want to get some credit for it.
Yeah.
So
No. We totally understand that the acknowledgement for the hard work that you've put in, like, it doesn't necessarily have to come with monetization at all. Like, but you know, I've spent 6 months putting effort into this, and you just copied and pasted it because you went to Wikipedia. You know, can you just, you know,
yeah.
yeah.
So I looked around, and it seemed that YouTube at the time was the main self-publishing menu that people were using to get information to the public, and from there it just kind of evolved from there. And I'm actually quite pleased because YouTube allows me to be a bit more flexible in what I can and cannot say, because Wikipedia has very, very strict rules about what you're allowed to put in and what you're not allowed to put in, and there are some things that you just can't put in Wikipedia because the information's not there. But you know, in my videos, I'm allowed to express opinions, or at least, you know, maybe bend the truth a little bit to within its stress parameters, you know, because, you know, or say something I don't necessarily have all the necessary information on, but I can make a pretty good guess.
It doesn't have to be all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I can totally understand that with trying to get, you know, there's a lot of people on the internet, especially in the debate scene that we would be in between the philosophy and things like that, and they get real fucking hung up on labels and real hung up on something particular. But as you say, using that freedom of speech, so to speak, it gives you the ability to give your opinion to get the information across better.
Yeah.
It's an easier tool to use rather than being so pedantic and going, well, this is the information. Well, do you know that? No, I don't know, but I think this. And it gives a better, light overall context of what you're trying to portray across. Like.
And also, there's just some information that I don't think has been researched by anyone. I mean, I am firmly of the opinion that the sun and the moon were considered planets by the Romans, and that's why astrologers consider the sun and moon planets. I can't prove it. It's never been researched, because originally when the word planet was coined, it was coined by the Greeks.
Wandering
star.
Yeah.
But they only mentioned 5 planets, not the sun and the moon. They excluded the sun and the moon. It was the Romans who added the sun and the moon. So, but I've never been able to prove that. But I was able to assert it as my opinion in one of my videos.
Yes.
Maybe it'll spur people on to actually figure out if it's true or not.
If there's any rich people out there that likes the look of Nick, you know, it's got some spare money, wants to help research this. But would that be something other than that? Do you have something that you would really like to put a lot of effort and time into? Is there something that's always, you know, not Atlantis or anything like that, but
or aside from, or just another topic on YouTube?
Yeah, no, is there something that, you know, a video or a topic like that particular thing you say hasn't been researched and you'd love to put the time and effort into that? Is there?
Yeah. I'd have to think about that. That would take a lot, because I have in my mind, I'm always thinking like 10 or 12 videos ahead.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would like to do more of, I think, is creative writing. I haven't done I've only published one piece of creative writing so far, because I just can't I can't take the time off of doing the research to write creatively. But I hope one of these days, if I can get myself more secure, I can actually start producing more original content of my own. That would be kind of fun.
Most of your content would all be edited stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever consider doing a live with the interaction with like, I only do mainly, you know, live stuff?
Well, I do live premieres of my videos, right? You know, where I chat with people when they sign on. But I'm not a gregarious person. You know, one of the reasons that I chose YouTube as a platform was that it does kind of cater to you know, introverted people.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of us out there. You're fine.
Yeah. So I mean, I always like gregarious people. I like hanging out with gregarious people, but I'm not a gregarious person myself.
I remember watching you on the Non Sequitur show. That's what I was saying. That's the first time I seen you. I think it was Planet Nine that you were discussing.
Oh, Planet.
Yeah, yeah. I think they found new information on Planet Nine as well. I seen not too long ago on.
Well, it's you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's always so. I mean, it's so bizarre because on the one hand you have Mike Brown, who is this fountain of just childlike wonder and optimism. I don't know if you've ever seen the guy,
No.
but he's just this archetypal nerd. He's got a part in his hair. He wears glasses. He's got a kind of a moon face, and he has this really high pitched voice. And he's always smiling and always laughing and always talking about how cool his ideas are. And he has never given up on Planet Nine. He talks about Planet Nine as if it's a certainty, that there's absolutely no chance that Planet Nine does not exist. And if you go on to him or Konstantin Batygin, the sort of cool mathematical prodigy that he works with, who's like in a rock band, and they'll say the same thing. There's no chance that Planet Nine does not exist. It's absolute certain, but it's only a matter of time. We're going to find it, and it's there.
Yeah.
And then you go and you look at other papers, and they're like, we gave up on Planet Nine years ago. Planet Nine is a myth. It's absolutely false, and here's the evidence for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know who to believe. I don't know enough about celestial mechanics to make an educated guess about who's right and who's wrong. My feeling is, let Mike Brown finish his survey. Let him look at the whole sky, and then when he starts saying, I don't think it's out there, then I can start saying, I don't think it's out there.
Well, the reason I brought it up is to say, as the first time I seen you was on the Non Sequitur show, doing that particular one, and I watch your edited videos, and you come across very clearly, very elegant and all that. And in this last, what have we been going, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, you come across a whole lot more relaxed than what I was expecting. Now, I know the Non Sequitur was a time ago, but
Right.
listening to your edited videos, obviously you're doing the show, you're trying to portray the information across. There's not a laugh and a giggle and a joke, but talking to you here, you seem very genuine and,
Well, the big difference is I'm not reading something off a screen. I don't like reading stuff off screens. It's one of the most frustrating things to do, to stare at a computer screen and read text off a computer screen.
Yeah.
I would much rather read a book or listen to audio and repeat the audio. But no, I have to read this off a screen. So obviously, when you're reading something off a screen, your voice slows down.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't generally, when I'm communicating with people on a one-to-one basis, I don't really have a mid-Atlantic accent. But as soon as I start reading stuff off a screen, then and of course I have a very florid writing style. I won't apologize for that. That's the way I write. And because I have a very florid writing style,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to speak in a rather elevated way, and I think that it does come across perhaps as a bit stilted.
The point I'm making is the live streams. If you did have actual interaction, I think you would be good at it. The banter back and forth.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've always been a little nervous about interacting with people. I've always found that to be rather difficult. I might start thinking about doing live streaming. My only problem is figuring out what to do. I had an idea. I spent like 70 quid, which is money I don't have, by the way. I spent like 70 quid buying the entire complete set of Stellaris. And I had this idea that I was going to start live streaming myself playing Stellaris. And because I couldn't think of anything else to do, because I can't play any other video game. And what other video game was I going to play? So I tried playing Stellaris for like 10 minutes and I completely failed at it. I keep trying to go back to it like once a month. I keep trying to think, okay, now I'm going to figure out how to do it. And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, crap.
It's everybody finding their niche. I think you've done really well with finding what you're good at. And I can't compliment you enough on your videos, man. I would be as a YouTube content creator, it is quite difficult to always try and watch everybody's content. But when your videos come out, I do make a genuine effort to go and watch them. I haven't seen the Halloween special one yet, I'll be honest with you on that. But the Kuiper Belt one quite recently was fantastic. And the one on Venus, you know, the graphics that you use, brilliant. The information you put across and the way you do it and all, it's a very entertaining video. It very much enjoyable.
No, I mean, it's the graphics that I use. Some of them were actually given to me by a friend. I haven't actually met him, but he's a collaborator, and he's been very nice to me. He's actually providing me with, I think, the majority of the images for my next video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his real name. He calls himself Singularity, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, a lot of us don't know each other's real names. It's fine. It's the joys of the internet.
Yeah. But a lot of the graphics, especially the animations that I use, I swipe, and sometimes I'm not 100% sure what the legality of it is. Although I am very, very careful to give credit to everyone, which I've noticed doesn't happen a lot on YouTube. And every time I do it, I always feel
makes no difference. Doesn't really help at all. You see a lot of people putting it in, this is done by the rights of such and such and such. Makes no fucking difference. Doesn't matter. Just handy as not doing it. But now, looking at the channel history, man, you're going the guts of 10 years nearly. You know, you have 30,000 subscribers or whatever it was. Has it taken you long to get to that stage, or did you get a wee boost, or was there something that just...
Well, it's been a hard climb. I mean, it's not like I don't want to sound ungrateful or anything, but it's been a hard slog. You know, it hasn't been like, you know, I've noticed, like, I've subscribed to people who had like 2,000 subscribers, and then the next month they had like 50,000 subscribers. And yeah, I mean, I subscribe to them, so I'm not surprised that other people subscribe to them.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like,
fuck you, I make better content. Why aren't you subscribed to me? Go on, say it.
It's also, I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm at the mercy of the algorithm, and, you know, I keep turning it out. And, you know, thankfully I've had a lot of contact with other people in my niche on YouTube who have done me a lot of favors. I had a collaboration with Isaac Arthur. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I think his name was mentioned in the chat earlier.
Yeah, he's a former soldier, and I think an astrophysics undergraduate who talks about futurism and aliens, and he has like 500,000 subscribers, and he gave me a...
I think I do know about him. Did he do something about a space city and goes into what could be and what could not be? And yeah,
that's thing. Yeah, he talks about space colonization and what would it be like if we encountered aliens.
I think I have come across him. I think he might have been in the non sequitur as well. But
he's a really cool dude, and he's just an incredibly nice guy, and he gave me a platform, which boosted my subscriber count, and hopefully I'll get more platforms as time goes on. But I'm not that concerned about it, because, you know, I'm not looking to become like super duper famous. I just, you know, it would be nice if I could do this as my job instead of as a hobby. You know, that's really all I'm looking for.
Other than you know, as we all want to make, is in doing what we enjoy. This is what you enjoy doing, you know. So we all want to make a living from what we enjoy. Other than, you know, continuing to do something you enjoy, do you have a general goal? Is it just to get that information out there? Because, you know, it is sort of a niche information. You know, as much as I've talked to a few people in the community, and a few people have went, brilliant, why have I not seen this channel? I've talked to a few other people, and they're like, whoa, I'm not going to watch that. That's just, you know.
Well, it's odd. I mean, to me, it's odd. I mean, my mother was telling me this, because I was, as I think I mentioned, I'm on the autistic spectrum, and being on the autistic spectrum, I was a very early reader, and my mother didn't really know what to do with that, so she got me a whole bunch of National Geographic books for children that were like, you know, 10 years above my age range, and I started reading those books, and I think ever since then I have this compulsion to just tell people about the world that we live in. I don't care whether they don't want to know. You know, there's a certain. I mean, I remember I was sitting with my grandmother, and I was showing her pictures of dry riverbeds on Mars. I said, these riverbeds are 3 billion years old. There was water flowing on the surface of Mars 3 billion years ago. Isn't that amazing? And she said, maybe, I don't care. The human, see, the thing that I've always said, and I said this in one of my videos, is if you tell me that you don't care about that, you don't have the right to be bored. It's like, because you're choosing to ignore this incredible universe that we live in, this incredible world that we live in. You're choosing to ignore it. You say you don't care about it, and yet you have the audacity to get bored.
Looking up at the sky at night and things like that. There, last night on the way home, I missed a turn off on the motorway, and the next turn off on the motorway, you can go down obviously and turn, and go back up again to take the proper one. But where I live, it's a wee off-road, and you can go to the top of the mountain to a viewpoint, and I took the daughter up there, and we could see the two main cities that were on the other side of the water. It was too cloudy for stars, but right up there's no light or absolutely nothing. And the curiosity of a child I see in yourself when it comes to this topic. And when I said to you about astrophysics and hominid evolution and things like that, I'm really interested in it, and it's to maintain that curiosity of a child. When people get older and they get bored with it, it's like, fuck you, this is still cool. This is still really cool.
Less cool. Dinosaurs will always be cool.
Yeah.
Every single generation of kids thinks dinosaurs are cool. They didn't get less cool just because you turned 30.
Yeah. There's a channel out there actually called Dinosaurs Are Awesome, and he works in. He went out and actually got in the field, a fossil, and live he actually broke it down and took it off, and it had been like 60 million years since anyone had seen this bone, and it was being done live on the screen, that sort of shit. There was only like 10 of us watching it because it's such a small channel. And I was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm taking an extended lunch. This is fucking cool. I'll
put sub list. What's it called? It's called Dinosaurs Are Awesome.
Dinosaurs Are Awesome. He hasn't put any content out in a wee while, small wee channel. But he had a fossil and he broke it down and took it out of the actual rock there live on screen, and it's like,
oh, cool.
To me, that sort of shit's fucking class.
Yeah, it's like, and they discovered an object in the Kuiper Belt that no one had ever seen before, that had never been photographed before. And it's like, that's fascinating. We're always learning new things. And the idea that people could find that dull is just, it staggers me. Because when there are 10 million species of animal on this planet, and we've cataloged something like 1% of them. And they say that the best way to discover a new species of animal is to dig in your back garden, because sooner or later you'll find a species that hasn't been cataloged. Mm-hmm. It might just be a mite or a soil bacterium, but it would still be a new species that no one else had ever seen or cataloged or observed. And it might have behavior or physiology that had never been seen before. And it's like, people tend to forget. I mean, one of my favorite quotes from Mike Brown actually says, "I make groundbreaking discoveries all the time. Every scientist does." And that's the truth. Because in order to be a scientist, you have to make a groundbreaking discovery. Yeah. No one's going to pay attention to you if your discovery doesn't break ground.
It's the media that sensationalizes certain things. That puts people and makes people famous. It's not the work that they do and the much effort they put in. It's about what's popped out of it, or what that one line that they used can be used for a tagline, and that's what gives attention, and that's what drives people's information and what drives people's desire into, oh, did you see, they found this in the news the other day, this scientific discovery, and it's popular for a week, and everybody's talking about it because it's in the front of the fucking Daily Mirror or whatever, and it's a headline, have you seen this? And then people forget about it, and the only thing that they remember is the headline, so then it's falsely represented from what it actually is.
Wrong, because it's usually because what they've tended to do is they've taken something that's very tentative and uncertain and blown it up as an absolute certainty that this is actually what's going on. And of course, the scientists would say, you know, we're only advancing something as a possibility.
Yeah.
We're not saying that this is real. We don't have enough data yet. It's going to need to be confirmed by someone else, which is something that a lot of people don't know about science. All science has to be double checked. And I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. The one thing that all my family kept asking about, what about this whole Christmas star thing? And I subscribe to, I think, over 100 astronomical channels on YouTube, and not one of them has talked about this at all. It's just not interesting to them because it's something that happens every 20 years. Jupiter and Saturn are coming into a great conjunction. Astronomers worked that out 3,000 years ago. It's really only the astrologers who care about that sort of thing these days.
Yeah, but it was in the front of the newspaper because it's happening for the first time in 20 years, and they don't remember it from 20 years ago, so they're asking you about it. For anybody in the field that's seen this information, it's not important to them.
Right.
How did you feel about information, speaking on the topic and stuff like that, the satellite that was broke, the satellite that caved there, was about 3 weeks ago?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was the satellite and it had I can't remember the name of it. Dave, help me out here. The satellite that picked up the waves, it was more radar detecting, big giant one, and the wires snapped on it.
Oh no, you mean the Arecibo telescope?
Oh, the telescope. Yes, sorry. Well, yes.
I was that was like losing a friend. I was so sad to see the Arecibo go. It's such a beautiful machine, and I mean, for God's sake, they filmed GoldenEye on it.
I never even thought, but that's right. Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a supervillain layer. See, it's interesting. No, but I was just horrified, especially given what Puerto Rico's been through in the last few years. To have one of their icons savaged like that, and I'm hoping that it gets repaired. I'm hoping they're saying that it might be getting repaired. I don't know. I mean,
there's talk of it being repaired, but the reason that it wasn't maintained is because there was no money.
Yeah.
You know, so it is one of those hard decisions where it's, you know, should we make it better than what it was? Should we bring it back the way it was?
And as the punchline, when they announced finally that the Arecibo was probably closing forever, the Chinese unveiled their version of the Arecibo.
Well, China does be into everything, don't they?
Well, that might spur people on. You know, it's like, you know, maybe, you know, they'll let the Puerto Ricans they'll let the Puerto Ricans collapse, but they're not going to let the Chinese get one up on them.
I was literally just about to ask you this question that has been brought up in the chat, and I won't give the person credit because he's just a troll. But your upbringing, were you raised a Christian over here? You know, over here in the UK, it's not as enforced as it would be in America.
No, yeah. Well, I'd love to talk about my religious upbringing. I had a very unique upbringing. In fact, my stepfather, who I would probably consider, for better or worse, my primary religious influence, is an atheist. And he and I would have conversations about the feasibility of the existence of a deity. But the weird thing about my stepfather's atheism is that even though he was an atheist, he made a living selling religious icons. He sold Hindu and Buddhist religious icons for a living. That was his job for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I would spend a lot of time with him, and living with this atheist materialist, I gained a huge understanding of Buddhism and Hinduism, even though they were not religions that I personally followed. You know, my mother has always been kind of a non-committal theist, I guess you could call her. I think the polite term is New Ager. But I don't think she's ever really been that specific about it. But and my only real religious indoctrination, if you will, came from my grandfather, who was, you know, very much a very staunch Anglican.
I love the way you put that too. Like, it's sort of, yeah.
I mean, he was the only staunch Anglican that I ever met. I mean, it's like, you know, everyone. it was quite astounding. I mean, he rejected the idea of woman priests. Like he would not accept communion from a woman priest, and you know, but no, I mean, he gave me, you know, the Anglican watered down version of Christianity. And then I read the Bible, and then of course when you read the Bible, you're like, oh, so that's what's really going on. Okay. Oh, look at all that. They don't tell you about the incest or the genocide. You know, it's like,
See, that's quite funny, man. You know, because there's my grandmother, and she's 82, and it was like 6 months ago, or whatever. And we were mentioning about the, you know, the pillar of salt being turned to the pillar of salt because she looked back at Gomorrah and stuff like that there. And because I brought up, and I was like, "There's incest in the Bible." She says, "There is not." And I was like, "Well, you know the story about turning the pillar of salt?" And it was like, "Yeah." And I was like, well, "What happened afterwards?" "Don't remember." "No, of course you don't, because they didn't teach you that. You know, get your dad drunk and rape him twice. It's."
no, I remember turning to that page, not to that page, but to an earlier page where a guy rapes his sister. And I remember the line she said, it was hilarious. It was, "These things are not done in Israel."
Do you find, like, you know, generally there's a lot of how's the right way to word it? The channel here in our community and stuff would fall under, as I said to you earlier, sort of the atheist umbrella, because we've all sort of come together under that agreement. You know, we've all come together from different channels, from like Aaron Ra and Cosmic Skeptic, or, you know, Dark Matter, or whatever they got. We've all found and seen each other in the live chats, and have all sort of come together through that. But there is differences between all of us. You know, me and Dave disagree on things. Me and Ox disagree on things. Ox isn't even an atheist at all. I think Ox is Indian, more American Indian traditional religion, and goes that way. You know, and we've all sort of come together. Do you find that the skeptic sort of mind, the logical thinking sort of mind, sort of leads you down that route? You know, the people that you talk to that you would find that are Christian, do you find they also have no interest in the science and no interest in the universe? And
I think that's a bit, I think that you can make a generalized point that that's true, but on the other hand, I mean, many Christians, and I've often made this point very strongly, because I've, especially
not to broad brush, but in general, everyday life is what I mean. Yeah.
Catholics in general tend to be very pro-science, much more pro-science than Protestants are and Muslims are. But for instance, you know, one of the person who discovered that the sun was a star was the Vatican's chief astronomer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, and of course you have Gregor Mendel, who is the founder of genetics, and he was a monk. You know, so it's not like there was a stark division between, you know, rational skepticism and irrational belief. I mean, there is crossover. And to be honest, I have to say that I've always been a bit wary of associating with skeptics on YouTube, because I often find that there's a certain irrationality that runs through some of them, and I don't know, and I'm not clever enough to make the distinction between the ones that are actually skeptical and actually rational, and the ones that are embracing a particular kind of belief that they call skepticism.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you in that. Having some interactions with people and things like that, and they call themselves skeptics and they think logically, but they have a mindset and they have a belief system and they have an idea of what something is, and if you disagree with that, even if you put forth a logical conclusion or a logical whatever it is, it disagrees with theirs, so it's you get a pushback.
Yeah, and I understand it, because I do it too. I think everybody does it. I don't think, and one of the first steps you have to make toward being a skeptic is you have to be able to tell yourself that that's what you do, because of course that's what you do. Yeah. Everybody, we all have biases, we all have beliefs, we're all emotional animals, and you know, and I was following Cambridge Analytica. You know, remember Cambridge Analytica?
I watched a documentary not too long ago. Yeah.
When they took everyone's Facebook data, they the Big Five psychological test and applied it to everyone, and basically they were able to predict and manipulate people based on the Big Five psychological test, which is really, really frightening, because the Big Five psychological test, it doesn't say anything about how rational you are. It doesn't say anything about how intelligent you are. It's basically how you react on an emotional level to the world that you live in. And I mean, if you look at me, my big five is 50% openness, 50% neurotic. And I have a very strong feeling that because I scored very high on the openness score, that's why Cambridge Analytica didn't send me any emails. Because people who are open are interested in things and people that are not them and theirs.
Yeah.
People who are closed are, I hate this word, but lack of a better word, tribal.
Yeah.
They have this,
tribal mentality.
Yeah. And but I do think that, I don't know if this is how I was brought up, or if it's just an instinct that I have, because I think people are naturally more open than others. And so it's rather difficult. And I think you're gonna find open and closed personalities on either side of the skeptic versus religious debate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like you said, one of the people you work with is a Hindu, and I can't say this now. I'm kind of pissed off at India at the moment, but no, seriously, get rid of Modi. But but there is a very strong tradition of secularism in India, and it's sad to see it go. But also you have to remember that there is a difference between secularism and atheism as well. So I mean, yeah.
A lot of them get tied together because it's sort of a way of thinking, not an agreement on what we think.
Yeah, it is. It's a way of thinking. Science is a way of thinking. This is one thing that people tend to forget as well. It's not a collection of facts. It's not a collection of dates. It's not a collection of measurements. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of looking at the world and saying, "Am I wrong?"
See that? Oh, hit the mic. Sorry. That's one thing I find as well, is the ability to apologize, the ability to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a problem with that. I find it very freeing, and it gives you the ability to move the fuck on. It's like, right, did this, messed up, or I was wrong in this experiment was wrong, that was wrong. Let's move on and take the information that we've got and move on. From a religious point of view, the fact that we do that and we can change, they see it as a bad thing because we're always changing, rather than having that one, defined thing that's never unchanging and has been around and is eternal and all that. Science is about changing and learning as we go along.
There's been this fascinating phenomenon that's been happening. Mary Shelley wrote another science fiction book that has been completely forgotten by history, called The Last Man.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows Frankenstein, but she also wrote this other book called The Last Man, which was basically a post-apocalyptic novel. It was one of the first post-apocalyptic novels. It was written in 1826, and it was set in 2075.
Right.
And the fascinating thing about that book, it's not a very good book. Let me say that right off the bat. But the fascinating thing about this book is that Mary Shelley, writing in 1826, did not expect 2075 to be any different from 1826. And there's this weirdly wonderful scene where a guy gets into a hot air balloon. This is 2075. He gets into a hot air balloon, and he's wondering at the ingenuity of man and the advances of technology that we have these things called hot air balloons that are going. She just could not conceive of a world that was different from the world that she knew.
I thought you were going to go steampunk, and then it was just like, no, she was lazy. She was just lazy.
No, it's not laziness. That's the thing. Nobody knew this.
Yeah.
Until 1826, nobody thought the future was going to be any different from the present or the past. And so when you look at that kind of mentality and you realize that nobody imagined that the future was going to be different. Nobody imagined that the future was a terra incognita that we were all hurtling towards, that we had no idea where it was going to end up. The idea of an eternal verity, of an eternal truth that you can adhere to, sorry, I just got a Facebook notification, that you could adhere to forever and that would never change, it would always be there, made sense. But in a world now where everyone is suffering from future shock, you can try to hold back the tide, but you will always fail because fundamentally, the genie is out of the bottle now, and I mean, we no one can say what the world's going to be like in 100 years, whether we're even going to still be alive in 100 years, and that's a very difficult question. That's a very difficult thing for, I think, religious-minded people to face, which is why a lot of them become apocalyptic and they say, "Well, it doesn't matter because we're all going to die, and we're all going to go to heaven." And
yeah, this is just a stepping point, sort of. Yeah, moving on to the better place and all that sort of crack. Like that was a fantastic answer, man. No, I love that. Yeah, no, it really is. People can't deal with it. They can't deal with change. Change is very hard to deal with, even though it's apocalyptic and even though it's the end of the world. It's comfortable because it doesn't change.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's scary. I mean, it's scarier to imagine that we're going to have to spend by the year 2100, we're going to have to be confronting and dealing with the problems of global warming and climate change and species loss, and and probably new diseases and very likely wars that are the result of it. That's frightening. That's terrifying. I mean. And we're already beginning to see it now. I mean, the Syrian civil war was basically a climate change war. We don't tend to think of it that way, but that's what it was. And which basically means Brexit was caused by climate change, because if it wasn't for the Syrian civil war, there wouldn't have been the massive refugees that gave Nigel Farage that poster, which was one of the main reasons why people ended up voting for Brexit in the first place. But it's scary. It's really frightening to think that we might actually have to live through this. We might actually have to deal with it, and that's it's not as fun to imagine as imagining that the world is just going to blow up and the righteous will just go to heaven and everyone else will go to hell, and that's it.
It's quicker. It's easier. Nuclear war wipes everybody out. It's all over and done with. But actually struggling to change things, moving from petrol-powered cars into electric cars, as much as everybody wants it to, the costs to make them, the convincing of the public, the setting up the actual system to use them and things like that. Are we going to rely off the grid, or we're going to use all solar power to get them? And converting from the system that we have to that change is difficult.
Yeah, it really is. And it's
costly. It's costly.
Yeah. And we're not ready, for a lot of what's going to happen. I mean, we talk about the coming automation revolution, but we already have self-driving cars. As far as I can tell, the only reason they're not on the road is because they're being deliberately held back, politically. But if trucks replaced, if the entire fleet of drivers was replaced by automated trucks, that's the #1 job in America gone. That's 40 million people out of a job. And we're not ready for that.
I've seen there's a company, and they're doing that at the minute, and from one guy driving, he can command 5 trucks all at once. And it's not new forms of trucks that are automated, it's actually a conversion from the trucks that they have. So they don't even have to buy new equipment or anything like that. The cost is minimal. You just buy the unit, you put it in, 4 guys gets the sack for every 5 lorries.
Yeah. And I don't know if anything can be done about it. I mean, the Luddites tried to hold back the tide, 200 years ago, and they failed. And the saboteurs tried it in France, and they failed. And every time someone's tried to hold back that particular tide, it's always ended badly for them, and they've ended up forgotten. And it's
the fallback in the system, and what do you go with? At the minute, we've got capitalism with some sort of a social network over here and things like that. But do you go universal income, that everybody has something? It's automation can bring up a lot of free time to educate people, but a lot of people in the world at the minute take their free time and squander it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm very ambivalent about it, because right now I'm on disability benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for the disability benefits, I probably wouldn't be able to make the YouTube videos I'm making. So I mean, in some ways, I am the poster child for universal basic income. So I should be, preaching it from the high tops.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it scares me a little bit, and the reason it scares me is because it's essentially a new form of feudalism. It's because that money isn't going to come from nowhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very, very small percentage of the population doling out largesse to the vast majority of the population, because they are essentially redundant.
Mm-hmm.
And what will they demand of us in return? And that's the question that they have every right to ask, I think. And I mean, will they say that we shouldn't have children? You know, I mean, how long will they be willing to do this?
They're all really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying that. No, I agree with you 100%, man. You should come by our open mic nights on a Thursday. It would be a fantastic addition. Yeah, you have a very good outlook that you can see things, and you, me, and Dave would have some great conversations. The logical thinking and the taking things and taking sort of emotion out of it and approaching things from this is the way it is and this is the possible outcome and 50 other possible outcomes, and we can all take them into consideration.
Oh God, I wish there was only one. I really wish there was only one or two. I could handle two.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a shout out to questions from the chat. Nick, have you anything, the next video that you said you were working on? It does generally sometimes take you about a month or so to work on a video. Definitely worthwhile, and you'll see why when it comes out. But can you give us a wee bit of a hint on what's coming up on the next video while I can see if there's any questions from the chat? Genuine questions, no stupid troll questions. I broke his internet.
Oh, hi.
There we go.
I'm back. Here.
He's back.
No, the next video is actually really, really straightforward and simple. I'm just whizzing through it. I did a video on Pluto, which was an hour long, but now I'm doing a video on all the other dwarf planets in the outer solar system. It's like a straight top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is what we know about it, which is basically nothing. And and so it's because although it is very simple and straightforward, I do think it's important because I do feel that the whole Pluto as a planet question tends to get discussed with Pluto in isolation, and I think you need to understand what has been found in the outer solar system. Why there's a whole zoo of Plutos out there, little Plutos that have been found.
Yeah, that's why sort of Pluto lost its position, because it's not. That's fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, and these objects are really interesting in their own right. You know, they have a lot of really interesting geological and orbital features that are worth talking about. After that, I'm going to do my top 10 of the year list, which I always do, and then I'm going to try, fingers crossed, I'm going to try and do my video that I promised, because I said I was going to do it once a year. But I was going to do my video on measuring time, which has been I did one video on it, which I said I'll do it in the next episode, and then nobody watched it, so I said, okay, I'll make it an annual tradition. But now we're in the middle of COVID, and I really feel that I need to use the library in order to get it right. I don't feel comfortable just using internet information on it, but we'll see what happens. And then after that, the next couple videos will be on the water series. They'll talk about asteroids. And then the final video on the water series will be about water in the universe, like water in quasars, water in water on the sun. You know, there's water on the sun. I didn't know there was water on the sun. Water in stellar nurseries and the role that water plays in birthing stars and things like that. And then I'm going to start the next series, which will be about the 7 classical planets. And I already the Venus video that I did was a kind of a preview of that. So
lots to come. In the description, hit the button, join the other 20,000 people that think his content is worthwhile watching. And as I say, the man puts an awful lot of effort in. And talking to you, Nick, I've had a lot of fun. You're a lot more, as I say, from listening to the videos and just having the impression of watching you and that, a lot more laid back. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Really did. Like, any questions from the chat? Except, how do we find life from non-life?
That's an interesting question. I'd be willing to try and answer that if that was a question that's...
Well, I was just sort of paraphrasing the general troll questions that they're putting in the chat, but go on then. Go for it.
It's not a troll question, it's only a troll attitude. Because someone could actually give you an answer to that question. There are hypotheses that have involved in that. It's currently a very cutting-edge branch of science.
Abiogenesis,
It's called abiogenesis, and if you want to learn more about it, there's plenty of discussions on how it works. And right now, the current hypothesis is that there was a form of RNA that self-replicated, and that originally there was this the world was RNA that self-replicated and then formed a coating around itself, and that was the first living thing. Although probably it wasn't fully living, but I mean,
Yeah, it takes steps, you know.
it's-
Yeah, a good analogy I seen one time, I can't remember what the lecturer, obviously it was on evolution or whoever the lecturer was or whatever like that, and he lifted up an old school mousetrap, you know, and he was like, look at this is a mousetrap, it's really good and all that there. You know, it wasn't always a mousetrap, takes the spring off, throws it away, takes this off, throws it away, uses it as a tie clip. And he was like, it doesn't necessarily start off as a mousetrap.
yeah,
It can start off like this, and as time and evolution go along.
don't understand that for the vast majority of evolution's history, it was unicellular organisms that were doing the evolving.
Yes.
And when you look at the unicellular organisms, the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, prokaryotes are bacteria, eukaryotes are things like amoebas,
Like
right?
pine trees. Per Canthoven. Per Canthoven.
Amoeba, pine trees, and human. But fundamentally, when you look at
Is that me? No. Oh, you're back.
sorry, and bacteria are just bags with DNA floating in them. They don't have nuclei. They don't have any of the organelles. There's a vast evolutionary advance that was made before we even went into. And when you look at the level of complexity that's even in our cells and the amount of time it must have taken for that to evolve, it's astounding. I have never. It's very. The thing is, most arguments that creationists put forward are, they're easy. They're either easy to refute because they've been said so many times, or they're completely wrong, like saying there's no such thing as transitional fossils, which is
We're all transitional fossils.
I don't know. I don't even know why they keep using that one.
They keep using that word because of that damn picture that's on every t-shirt. You know, the 6 man that's like 30 long originally. The steps to evolution. That's been ripped off. That's the everything's different. It's again with the mainstream media taking a picture, making it popularized. The problem is education. People are getting their information from Facebook. People are getting the information, as you yourself have even said tonight. There's someone who's trying to get the best information they can, and you still need the fucking library. You're limited on the internet from the information you can get, and from somebody trying to learn from a layman's point of view. Education. Dave had a conversation with 2 teachers. And he was more up to date with the 2 teachers because they were that busy. They probably hadn't been to a conference to catch up on what had recently come out. You have to have a drive to want to go and know, a drive to keep up with this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, that's been my drive for most of my life. I don't think there's ever been a time in my life when I haven't been trying to understand this. I think partly because when I was a kid, I just suddenly realized how big the universe was, and I kind of wanted to just say, okay, where am I? And I've been trying to do that ever since.
As you mentioned, whenever you got the book as a child that drove you down, I still have it up the stairs in the attic as a book my mother gave me when I was very young, and it's 500 questions and answers, and it's everything from evolution to science to astrology. And actually, I think I actually fucking have it up here. Yes. I do.
How old were you when you got it?
Oh no, that's another one I got.
All right.
This is another one. Well, this is what's quite good.
That's a nice picture of Andromeda.
An introduction to astronomy.
All right, yeah.
It's quite good. She gave me that when I was younger as well,
Yeah.
So, it's...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of pictures. Pictures are good and lots of information. This is
pictures are vital. People always say when you grow up, you need to read books without pictures, but pictures are how we see the world, and you need pictures in order to really understand. I tend to see things visually anyway. It's a lot easier if I can come up with a decent metaphor to explain how something works rather than just simply...
Analogies and metaphors and things like that are a wonderful term, especially for people on the layman side. If you can make a correlation between something that they're latched on to. I see some tags. One from Cooper Gates. Do you think gas giant exoplanets can have Earth-like moons?
Oh, yeah.
And, Go ahead.
Well, you can argue that we have one in our solar system, Titan, which is, it's a moon of a gas giant. It has an atmosphere as thick as Earth's. It has rain. It has rainbows. It has lakes. It has seas. It has volcanoes that are probably active. I mean, everything in. It's just that on Titan, everything is a different material. So instead of lava, it's water, and instead of raining water, it's raining liquid methane.
Yeah.
And the lakes and seas are of liquid methane. But it's no, it's essentially it's the most Earth-like planet in the solar system, and it's a moon of a gas giant. So yeah, absolutely, there could be.
Would that be the answer to the next question? Is do you have a favorite moon?
Well, I'm kind of tied between two. One of them is Titan, but the other one is Europa. I'm hoping that.
Same here. I answered Europa in the chat, and Titan would have been my other one. Like I was like Europa, etc.
Europa is just. I mean, the chances it frustrates the living hell out of me that we still don't know if Europa. We still don't know 100% if Europa has an ocean or not.
Yeah.
If we find out, if in the minuscule chance that when we finally send the Europa Clipper there, which we will, in 2024, it's going there, and we finally map Europa's under ice, and we finally find out it doesn't have an ocean, then I will forget about Europa and we'll just be Titan. But if Europa actually turns out to have an ocean, then yeah, it's Europa.
So this is the deciding factor, and we won't know your decision till at least 2025, probably then. So call back in 5 years, everybody. We'll do a recap, Oh, yeah. Man. Well, Nick, that I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Definitely bouncing back and forth with the same sort of topics. And again, I'm just going to pump the link in the description. Give the man a subscribe, and give me a subscribe for any of the new people here. 28 from 1,000.
Okay.
28 from 1,000, and I have said when I hit the 1,000 I will dress up in a Borat mankini. So that alone is worth
Don't do that. That's not necessary.
It's necessary, yes.
On Steam, the Avengers or something. Don't dress up in.
Critical Cripple from the fucking chat bought me it for Christmas, and some people didn't think that I would wear it, and I was like, well, if I had 1,000 subscribers, I'll wear it. So for that alone, it's going to be worth it. I could be 30 seconds on screen. I could sit here and wear it. You don't know.
That's what I should do. I should say, if I get 30,000 subscribers, I'll put on a mankini. I'm sure everyone wants to see me in a mankini.
Just don't forget to shave the chest, man,
Oh, boy.
Oh, excuse me. Well, thank you very much for everybody that's come. Thank you everybody in the live chat that's came and made this worthwhile. If you haven't seen the debate that was Thursday past about slavery, yeah, I'm not even going to go into what happened, but there's 2 minutes and 2 hours, 1 minute and 35 seconds. Just go there and watch. It gets insane. Gonna take a break in the new year. Other than we're gonna have the New Year's Eve celebration. We have got to New Year's Eve 12 o'clock UK time to hit 1,000 for the mankini.
Alright, we'll do.
Now,
Okay,
we've got a wee while yet. We've got a couple of days. We've got a week or so yet. So that will be happening. We're probably going to have an open room discussion. We're probably going to game a wee bit as well. Let off some steam. There will be alcohol. Last year's went for 5 hours. So fuck knows what's going to happen. My mother's taking the child, so it's going to just... and as I say, I'll probably take maybe a week or so off in the new year. Other than that, check out Nick. Hit the button here. Dave's got his usual crack happening. There's the Christmas stream that Purples are organising on Christmas Day. 24-hour stream jumping between lots of channels for all the people out there that's alone. So check that out too. Other than that, I don't know. I'm rambling now. Lots of housekeeping. Lots of housekeeping.
Good stuff.
Nick, thank you very much for coming, and thank you to all the Patreons. I still haven't done my video, it's not finished yet, but thank you to all the Patreons that contribute, and you really do help make a difference. You didn't buy the Christmas tree because this is awful looking. Look at my awful Christmas tree. Doesn't even have lights or nothing. The lights are broke, but thanks everybody, and on that note, we will oink and we will out.
All right, see you later. Bye.